we are excited to introduce you to Vall Bullerman, a new Be Well God Bless directory member. Val, can you please give us some background on yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I am a business coach, and I've been a business coach for about, such a good question I always ask myself because I'm not sure, about 8 years, 7, 8 years, right around in there. I started out as a life coach and transferred over to being a business coach. So it's one of my specialties that a lot of business coaches don't have is I actually deal with the internal stuff too, like the fears and the doubts and all of that, and I'm able to combine that with the strategy, which is kind of a powerful experience when people get to have that. That's my business side. On the personal side, I have a husband. We live in Hudson, Iowa, just south of Waterloo. We have 3 kids. My oldest, Megan, lives in Rochester, Minnesota. Matthew, my youngest, is 19, and he lives here at home. And then Michelle is my assistant. She lives here in the local area also. And then, of course, I have like I always say, the sun rises and sets around Mr. Graham, who is my grandson, my first grandson. So he's 2, and we have a ton of fun with him, with the second one on the way. So we are a busy, ever-evolving family for sure.
Very fun. I love how your family is involved.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a little background on what caused you to want to be a life coach or a business coach?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun story. I worked in the corporate world, in the insurance world for about 10 years. Worked really, really hard to become a manager. Became a manager in record time because I did work really hard. I got to be a manager and I hated it. I did not like the management side of things at all. I loved the hustle, the getting things done, all of that. But when I became a manager, it was budgets, hiring, and firing, basically, is what it came down to, and not my favorite things in the world to do. And so when my third surprise blessing, his name is Matthew, was born, I decided something had to change because I didn't want to continue to have pizzas on Friday night with my kids in the lunchroom because that happened in the busy times. And so I knew something had to change, but I didn't know what. And I also knew that I was becoming of a more interesting age that I only wanted to do things that I loved. And so I hired a coach. That's kind of what it came down to is I hired a coach and said, this is it. This is my parameter, but I'm not sure what to do with it all. So he took me through some work, some purpose and vision work to figure out what it is I'm meant to do here on earth. And when that popped up, I thought, okay, great, now we'll know. This is my corporate side. Tell me what this is. And he looks at me in his wise coach way and said, now we wait because you'll know. When you're ready, you'll know. And I was like, frustrating because I wanted to have the answer. And so it took me about 6 weeks, and we were coaching on other things in the meantime, but it took me about 6 weeks. I woke up one morning and said, oh my gosh, that definition is a coach to me. It's a coach. And so I went back to him all excited to give him this answer that I didn't think he knew, and I said, it's a coach. And he said, I've been waiting for you to figure that out. So I was like, okay. So then literally from there, it went very fast. I started making listed out coaching institutes, people that taught coaching, found the one I wanted, signed up. Took me about 18 months to 2 years to complete that. And then that was as a life coach. And then when I became a life coach, I was a very poor life coach. I did not have very many clients. I really struggled to get consistent money. And make the marketing machine work, right? Making that be consistent and easy. And so I actually took some training from another, she taught business coaches, and I went in saying, I'm coming in as a life coach and I'm going out as a life coach. I'm not going to be a business coach with my little nose in the air. And they kind of laughed at me and said, well, okay, but you'd make a great business coach. And I continued that probably till about halfway through the training. I had earned all of my money investments back. I had I had more, like, I don't even know, like 100 times my prices, just enormously, because I was charging in the beginning like $25 an hour. It was just something super crazy low. And then by the time I graduated, I think it was $7,000 for 6 months is what I was charging at that time. So, quite a difference. And a lot of it wasn't even the strategy side of things. What I discovered was that it's way more about the mindset, what we're able. I heard this just the other day. Our business will succeed by the level that we are able to receive. And I'm like, ooh, I like that. Yeah. So then kind of the rest is history. My friend coaches were all like, what are you doing that's making, things go so well for you? They started asking questions. I started answering. Pretty soon I was teaching and training. And before you know it, it took me probably a good year to transfer from life coach to business coach. I could have done it much, much quicker, but I was dragging my feet a little bit. And now that I've been switched over, what I know to be true is there's a whole lot of life coaching that goes on in my business coaching, because the things that are holding you back in your business, in your life, are the very same things that are holding you back in your business, and vice versa. What's showing up in one always shows up in the other. My specialty is women, so I'll talk about the women entrepreneurs or the women businesswomen that I work with. One of the things we're taught as women is to take care of everybody around us and kind of take care of ourselves last, maybe. And so when it comes to women entrepreneurs, they tend to want to take care of the world. They want to change the world. But what they forget is that the change happens first within them. So, and once that's happening, then they can really start making a huge and big impact in the world. So I'm always fascinated by creating confidence and clarity with women so that they can get the success that they want. Because without that, they just kind of run in circles and eventually aren't able to create the business of their dreams. I have a newer client. She's been with me for about 3 months now, working with me on an individual level, and we were doing some individual time together, and she burst into tears, and she looked at me and said, I'm really going to get to do this, aren't I? I'm really going to get to, serve the world in this way. And I said, oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Absolutely. And so, being able to allow people to see themselves doing what they love to do is such a gift. It's such a gift for me, but it's also a gift for them to be willing, once again, be willing to receive, because they come in almost saying, this doesn't work and this doesn't work, and I tried this and tried that. Well, that's all good and fine, but we're going to turn around to, so what do you need? What is it that we need to work with you to create what you really, really want? And then when that starts happening, it can be a lot. It can be a very emotional roller coaster. One of my favorite stories, and this is a good one. I actually had a client in Amsterdam. Kind of a long story, but I'm going to make it really short. She hired me as a coach. I worked with her for probably 6 to 8 months. She was creating some good traction. She was going to have an event in Amsterdam, and she'd done an event the year before, did not have any success at it. And success I mean sales. She had people in the room, just not any sales. And so she actually asked me as her coach to come over to Amsterdam. She would pay my way and pay me to coach her for the weekend. And so I did, and went to Amsterdam, had never been there, was a little worried about being there like all by myself, traveling on my own. I've traveled in the United States alone, but never across the ocean. And so got there, went through the event. It was a 3-day event. She, the year before, had sold nothing, zero. And then this time around, she had over 50% of the rooms sold, and she sold €330,000. No, that was U.S. 300. It was 230 euro, which equals 300,000 at that time. That was the translation. $300,000
Wow.
in sales. I know, right? Yeah. And here's the cool part. I don't take credit for it. I only take credit for coaching her, because once we could unleash the things within her that needed to be done, her willingness to receive that kind of money, for that many people to say yes, was where the true work had happened for her. Now, we did some strategy work, and I did a lot of coaching on her, and that kind of thing, but she's the one that made the magic happen. So much so that we ended up becoming partners, and I worked in Amsterdam for about 3 years with her, because she had so much business she couldn't handle it all. So it turned into something actually really wonderful for me also, which was very, very fabulous.
What are the 3 biggest reasons for hiring a business coach?
The first one is that you're not getting the results that you want. That's just plain and simple. It's you want X, but you're only getting this. And so knowing that where you want to be doesn't always get you there. Sometimes it does require some strategy. Sometimes it requires some ideas, or requires you doing some different things. I've worked with a lot of people on sales. I actually have a class called Stop Selling, Start Connecting that I teach a lot. And it's really about creating the relationship and connection with people, and the sales just like almost magically happen. So that is the first reason. Second reason is they're exhausted. They're exhausted from thinking about their business all the time and not getting the results that they want. But most of all, or they could be getting some really great results. I've had that happen where 6-figure coaches come to me and say, I want to make more, but I have no more time in the day. Like I'm just over the edge. I'm not sleeping. I'm working 24/7, and something needs to change. So then I help them to fine tune how their business works, and so that it can actually be easy. You don't have to. I'm going to say this, and a lot of people are going to disagree, and that's okay. You don't have to work a ton of hours to make really good money. You just have to work smart, right? You have to have the strategies that allow you to do that. I tell people this all the time, I work way less hours now than I did when I very first was a coach. And I make like more than 10 times of what I did back then. So, it's quite a difference. And then the last thing is the confidence factor. They know what they want, but they're scared. It's confidence and fear are the 2 other reasons that people hire a coach. You always want to look for a coach that, first of all, is creating the business that you would want to have in a way that you would want to run it. So an example would be, I don't necessarily just coach coaches. I coach speakers and all kinds of service providers, and mostly women, not all women, but mostly women. And when you look at the person that you want to coach with, you should always interview a couple of them. And when you make that decision, it needs to be based on they're doing business the way that I want to do business. And because I've seen too many people, and I've done it too, hired someone and then went, oh, no, I'm not doing that. Like, that's not my way, or that's not my style. And once again, you have to recognize the difference between fear and and just a strategy move that you need to make that you're scared of doing that strategy. There's a really big difference. So, that's kind of the 3 things that I think most people come to me for.
One of my last questions, on your website, it said your mission says, stop selling, start connecting. Can you explain a little bit why that connecting part is so important?
Yeah, I consider connection the lifeblood of any business. So in this is the cool part, is if you're not a great connector, you can be taught. If you're an introvert, you can put some things into place that makes it seem like you're a better connector. But connection is really the lifeblood of my business, and I believe that is why I'm at where I'm at today, at the level I am today, because I've been able to finesse and fine-tune the art of connection. I really believe it's an art. There's no do this 1, 2, 3. Connection is an experience, and experience of other people, and when they get an experience of you, that you care about them, that you care about what they're about, then if they need a coach, or in my case, if they need a business coach, or if they need something else, we have that connection to be able to say, hey, looking for, do you know of, kind of thing. When you're open in that connection process, then the business seems to come from magical places, although I know it's not magic. It's purely a step-by-step process that you're being open instead of closed. Because think about it this way. If you're wanting to get, that's very constrictive. And when you're ready to receive, remember we're back to that receiving thing, then it's very open. And so when you're very open, people are very attracted to that, and they're fascinated by it, and they want to be around that more. And sometimes that means they want to do business with you, and sometimes not. Either way is a win. The good part is you'll have someone in your life that may be just in your corner, or a friend, or you have a new client or a customer. Both ways are really, really important in our world. We need to have more of them. I do a lot of speaking. I speak for small groups, large groups. I'm a non-conventional speaker. That's what I like to tell people. I'm not the girl who's going to stand up and hang onto the podium and speak of that, and that's really important to me. I'm very interactive, even though I may not be interactive with the audience, because if it's 200 people in the room, you can't be interactive. But our energy, our connection, really, really interacts, and we really form. It's about another connection level, right? Of people being able to see and feel me, and for me to be able to see and feel them. And that's what I teach at the retreat. But that's even more fun. Is I love to do it. I've been to Montana. I've been all over the world speaking and doing some really fun things. So that is the other side of it.